right, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Urban Gardener. I am so glad that you all could join with me today for this video, especially all of our great new subscribers that we've got to the channel this year. Today, what we're going to be focusing on are tomatoes. We've got several different varieties of tomatoes that we're going to be planting out in our garden this year. We'll go over all those different types and where we're going to be planting them out at. But first, we got to head inside and see how we get them started for the year. So here we are indoors. We've got all of our different varieties of tomatoes that we started from seed. We've also got some eggplant that'll be going out here real soon. I get these started up a few weeks before our last frost day up underneath of these shop lights. There's 3 of them there that hold 2 different lights each. They're 4-foot shop lights. The bulbs are daylight T12s. Around 3,000 lumens, and that's going to be a plenty sufficient light to get us some really decent starts. Now I start out tomatoes, of course. We've got our eggplants, but I also do peppers and other varieties of starts as well. Now I built this light stand a few years ago, and it's done a really great job in getting all of my plant starts that I need for the season going, especially ahead of time, so that we get a really good head start. Like I said, put together with 1-inch PVC, and you can see that we've attached them to create 3 bars going across to hold up our 4-foot shop lights. And they've got these eye hooks with an S hook and these chains to connect them. Now the chains can be adjusted to whatever height that you need these lights at. And when you get your plants started right from seed, they're going to start popping up out of the soil, and you'll want these to be really low right up on them, and then you raise the lights up as they grow. Now, as you can tell, these tomatoes have been growing just a little bit longer indoors than they should have, so they are very eager to get outside. Now, before we go and plant out our tomatoes that we grew indoors, I want to kind of go over a couple of our volunteer tomato spaces that we have. I've got a couple of these buckets I placed out here several years ago and grew out some black cherry and true black Brandywine tomatoes. And ever since, I've just let those tomato plants drop a couple of fruits into the buckets. And the next year, we get starts that pop up. Now we do get a ton of starts. In fact, there's one right now that's popped up that's still going. But you get a ton of them that pop up from all the seeds that you get from the fruit that falls in. I try to pick the one that's most centered and the strongest, and then we let those plants grow out. And then when they fruit, we'll let more fruit drop into them, and we'll have volunteers for next year as well. Now, right around this fence here in our back patio area, I also have one other volunteer space right down here. As you can see, we got one right there. Now these are a cherry tomato called Praxxus cherry tomato, a tomato plant that I got seeds from Ray Browning from the Praxxus 55712 channel here on YouTube. I'll put a link down below to his channel. Got seeds from him several years ago and planted out some plants here in this space. And again, like with the others, I just let some of the fruits fall into the ground as they mature and wait for them the next season to pop up. And then I pick out probably our strongest ones. You got a pretty strong one there. This one's doing pretty good, but I picked this one out and it looked pretty strong, but it's not growing as well. But we'll see what happens. Maybe one of these other ones will catch up to it and we'll let it take its place. But we should have some really good volunteer cherry tomatoes growing up here real soon. So here we are out back. We've got all of our tomato varieties here outside now, all ready to transplant. I'm going to transplant them into these 5-gallon buckets that I have placed along our back alleyway fence line here. We got 10 different buckets there. We'll plant out 10 different varieties, and then we'll locate some in other parts of the garden as well along our different spaces. So all right, now it's time to plant out our tomatoes into our 5-gallon buckets that we have all set up here on the back fence line. What I have here is some extra soil in order to fill in these buckets as we plant them out, as well as some organic tomato-based fertilizer. This is just a dry fertilizer that we're going to amend the soil with. We'll put some inside the hole, as well as basically scratching some into the top layer of this so that it'll feed the plant as we water them down throughout the season. Also, one of the other things that I put in with my tomato plants and my pepper plants is Epsom salt. It's just basically magnesium sulfate. It's just a good addition to your tomato plants and helps them get some nice, good plant growth, and some say really help out with the flavor too. So we'll be adding those amendments in as we plant these plants out. One of the things that you're gonna want to do, especially when you've got some pretty mature plant starts like these ones here, is we'll go ahead and take one out. As you can see, it's got a really good root system already bunching up in there. But what we'll want to do is plant these plants in really deep into these 5-gallon buckets. So basically all we're going to have left at the top of this is probably just this portion of the plant here, and we'll bury the rest of this into the plant. So what you want to do is basically put yourself a nice decent deep hole into the bucket. Deep enough so where you can see where that's going to be when it gets to the top. I probably want that just down just a little bit lower. And once you have your hole set, I'm going to set the start aside. Like I said, we'll sprinkle in maybe about a tablespoon of our dry organic fertilizer, and the same, about a tablespoon of our Epsom salt. Now you sprinkle them in there, but you don't want it just piled in there at the bottom and place your plant. What you want to do is get in there and really just kind of mix that in down about another couple extra inches into that planting hole. Kind of move it around. That's going to really help give that plant start a really good start. Next, what we're going to do is we're just going to remove these leaves up the stem line here, the main stem line. And as we can see here with this one here, it's got a lot of white bumps that are on there, and those are just roots that are just getting ready and wanting to come out. And especially after we bury that in there, it'll help form some really good solid root base for this plant. So we'll just go ahead and bury that right in there. Take off this one here because I just don't want any of these leaves or any of these parts of the plant to be laying into the soil at all. Now that we've got it buried into the pot there, I've still got an extra couple of inches here left. So that's what I'll do, is fill in those couple of inches with some more soil. And now that I've put in that extra soil in there, I'm going to go ahead and take some more of this organic fertilizer. Probably put about another tablespoon or so into the top of that top layer of soil there. And we're just going to kind of work it in a little bit. All right, there we go. Now we've got our first tomato planted out. Now it's time to work our way down the line and get these all finished up. So there we are, all planted out, at least on this back fence line here. We've got about 10 varieties all planted into all of our buckets here. Now we did have several other varieties, about 3 or 4 more different kinds that we will plant out in some different spaces around the gardens as well. As the rest of those starts that we have, I'll give out to friends and neighbors. I grow as many as I do there from seed in order to be able to pick out the strongest ones and the best ones for the best outcomes this year. Now, all we got to do is get these guys all watered in. All right, it's been another great episode of The Urban Gardener here, 2020. I want to thank you all so much for joining me for this video. And again, a big thanks to all of our new subscribers for joining along with us on our urban gardening adventures as we make videos like this today, where we've planted out all of our great tomato varieties that we have growing this year. We've got lots and lots of really good plants put into our bucket system here in the back alleyway on our fence line. I've planted out plenty of other plants around other parts of the garden. So I hope that you'll join with us in future episodes as we'll keep you updated on how these plants are doing in the garden. So I want to thank you all so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. I'll see you again on the very next episode. Subscribers with us this year to check out I don't know if that's the way we wanted to say it. Let's try it again. Back to the airplanes interrupting us too. Sure missed that. Urban garden adventures here, and I want to, well, it's been a really great to have you along for our urban garden adventures here as we've today planted out all of our great tomato varieties. It's tumbling over my tongue, slipping on my tongue. Tree service is out right now, so I hope everybody can hear me all right. Taking care of all of our tomato plants that needed to get put out. And then you got people honking horns and all that. Motorcycles, all of it. Airplanes. That is, there's an airplane too. Look at that. I think everybody's just come out for me today, knowing that I'm getting out and making videos for the first time in a while.